Few musicals capture the essence of Hollywood elegance quite like My Fair Lady. Once released, the film became an enduring symbol of prestige, romance, and cinematic perfection. But behind its polished performances and lavish sets was a production shaped by power struggles, strategic decisions, and quiet personal sacrifices. From a secret voice replacement to hidden tensions between its stars, the movie was built on negotiation as much as artistry. And the leading lady who became Eliza Doolittle was never actually supposed to play the role at all. Number 1. Audrey Hepburn was never first choice. When the Broadway production of My Fair Lady became a sensation, one name was synonymous with Eliza Doolittle: Julie Andrews. She had originated the role on stage and delivered a performance that captivated audiences night after night. For many, she was the only logical choice to bring Eliza to the big screen. But Hollywood operated by different rules than Broadway. Studio executives at Warner Brothers were not interested in stage authenticity. They wanted box office certainty. Julie Andrews, despite her theatrical triumph, was an unknown face to mainstream movie audiences. Audrey Hepburn, on the other hand, was a proven star with international appeal. The decision was made to prioritize commercial viability over artistic continuity, and Hepburn was cast as Eliza. This choice ignited one of the most famous casting controversies in film history. Critics and theater fans questioned whether Hollywood had made a grave mistake. The debate would follow the production from start to finish and permanently changed how studios approached adapting stage musicals. It also set the stage for an unexpected twist at the Academy Awards that year, where Julie Andrews would have her own moment of vindication. Number 2. The Higgins persona was engineered. Creating a memorable character requires more than just good dialogue. For Henry Higgins, every detail of his persona was meticulously constructed to communicate power and intellectual superiority. He was never meant to be a warm or traditionally charming leading man. Instead, he was designed as a psychological archetype representing control and dominance. Rex Harrison built the character through precise physical and vocal choices. His posture conveyed authority. His speech patterns established rhythm and command. Emotional distance replaced warmth, making Higgins feel more like a force of nature than a vulnerable human being. These were not accidental qualities, but deliberate performance decisions shaped during production. The result was a character who functioned as a system of authority rather than a simple person. Audiences were meant to observe him with a mixture of fascination and discomfort. This careful engineering gave the film its unique tension and helped define the complex dynamic between Higgins and Eliza. Without this calculated coldness, the story's emotional stakes would have felt entirely different. Number 3. The voice that wasn't hers. One of the film's most carefully guarded secrets involved the singing voice audiences heard during Eliza's musical numbers. While Audrey Hepburn appeared on screen performing with passion and precision, most of the vocals actually belonged to someone else entirely. Professional singer Marni Nixon was brought in to provide the voice that would define the character's songs. For years, audiences had no idea about this substitution. The studio and marketing teams worked hard to maintain the illusion that Hepburn had sung every note herself. Nixon's contribution was kept hidden, her name absent from promotional materials and credits. This kind of vocal dubbing was not uncommon in Hollywood, but few cases were as high profile or as carefully concealed. The revelation eventually became one of the most famous examples of vocal deception in cinema history. It raised questions about authenticity and the length studios would go to protect their stars' images. For Marni Nixon, recognition came slowly, but her voice became permanently linked to one of the most beloved musicals ever made. The illusion had worked, perhaps too well. Number 4. Hepburn was devastated by the dub. Behind the glamorous premiere and critical acclaim was a deeply personal wound that Audrey Hepburn carried throughout production and beyond. She had poured herself into the role of Eliza, spending countless hours recording her own vocal performances. She believed those recordings would be used in the final film, preserving her complete artistic contribution. When she discovered that her voice had been replaced, the impact was devastating. The decision had been made without her full awareness, and learning the truth caused significant emotional distress. For an actress who valued authenticity and personal connection to her roles, this felt like a profound betrayal. Her trust in the studio system was deeply shaken. The experience became one of the most painful moments of her career. Despite delivering a performance that earned widespread praise, she knew that a crucial part of her work had been erased. This private heartbreak remained largely hidden from the public, overshadowed by the movie's enormous success. But for Hepburn, the triumph was bittersweet in ways few people understood. Number 5. Higgins was written to not sing. Long before cameras rolled, a crucial creative decision shaped how Henry Higgins would express himself musically. Unlike traditional leading men in musicals, Higgins was never intended to deliver soaring melodies or romantic ballads. Composers Alan J. Lerner and Frederick Loewe designed his numbers as rhythmic, talk-on-pitch patter from the very beginning. This approach was not a workaround for any performer's limitations. It was a deliberate storytelling choice that reinforced the character's personality. Higgins was intellectual, controlled, and emotionally guarded. Having him speak-sing rather than belt-out tunes made him feel more realistic and psychologically grounded. His musical style became an extension of his rigid worldview. The decision proved essential to the film's unique tone. While Eliza's songs allowed for emotional vulnerability and transformation, Higgins remained consistent in his measured delivery. This contrast highlighted the fundamental differences between the two characters and deepened the story's exploration of power dynamics. The music itself became a tool for character development rather than mere entertainment. Number 6. The long fight for the rights. Bringing a beloved Broadway musical to the screen was never going to be simple. The journey to secure adaptation rights for My Fair Lady stretched over years and involved intense negotiations that tested the patience of everyone involved. Multiple studios recognized the property's enormous potential, and competing offers drove the price steadily upward. The battle became personal for those involved. Jack Warner, head of Warner Brothers, refused to back down from the pursuit. He remained persistent and financially aggressive, understanding that whoever won this battle would control one of the most valuable properties in entertainment. The bidding process became a high-stakes game where timing, leverage, and sheer determination mattered as much as money. Warner was willing to pay whatever it took to claim victory. The struggle was never about survival for the studio. It was about prestige, control, and the promise of award season glory. When Warner finally secured the rights, the price tag was staggering by any measure, but the investment signaled something important to the industry. This would not be an ordinary adaptation. The film was destined to be treated as a cinematic event from its very inception, worthy of the lengthy battle. Number 7. A record-breaking budget gamble. Once the rights were secured, Warner Brothers committed to a production scale that stunned even industry veterans. The film became one of the most expensive musicals ever produced at that time, with costs mounting rapidly across every department. This was not a project built on restraint or caution. It was a massive financial gamble that required complete studio commitment. The budget swelled due to elaborate set construction, intricate costume design, and meticulous production details. Every frame was meant to communicate luxury and sophistication to audiences worldwide. The studio poured resources into creating a visual experience that would justify the enormous investment. Nothing about the production was approached modestly, and every decision reflected grand ambition. Warner Brothers treated the movie as a prestige gamble rather than a safe bet. Studio executives understood that failure would be financially catastrophic, potentially damaging the company for years to come. But they also believed that success would cement their reputation and deliver both critical acclaim and commercial triumph. The stakes could not have been higher for everyone involved. Number 8. Sets that functioned like cities. Rather than filming on location in England, the production team made a bold decision to construct massive practical sets on studio sound stages. Entire London environments were recreated indoors, from cobblestone streets to elegant townhouses. The scale of construction rivaled historical epics rather than traditional musicals. It was filmmaking as architecture. These sets were not mere backdrops. They functioned as living, breathing environments that actors could inhabit completely. The attention to detail was extraordinary, with every doorway, lamppost, and window designed to create an immersive world. Cinematographers could capture sweeping shots that felt authentic despite being entirely artificial. The craftsmanship was visible in every corner. The ambition behind this approach redefined expectations for musical production design. Future filmmakers would look to this movie as a benchmark for what could be achieved within controlled studio environments. The sets became characters themselves, silently communicating class distinctions and social boundaries that were central to the story. Physical space became narrative in ways rarely seen before. Number 9. Costume design as character storytelling. Fashion in this film was never merely decorative. Legendary costume designer Cecil Beaton approached Eliza's wardrobe as a visual language that tracked her psychological and social transformation throughout the story. Every outfit communicated something essential about where she stood in her journey, from flower girl to refined lady. Each costume change marked a shift in identity and self-perception. Early scenes featured rough, simple clothing that reflected Eliza's humble origins and working-class background. As she transformed, her wardrobe became increasingly sophisticated, mirroring her growing confidence and changing place in society. The clothes told the story even when dialogue did not, speaking through fabric and form. Beaton's designs became iconic in their own right, influencing fashion trends and earning widespread acclaim from critics and audiences alike. The black and white Ascot ensemble remains one of the most recognized costumes in cinema history. Through fabric, color, and silhouette, the film demonstrated how clothing could function as storytelling. Eliza's external transformation made her internal growth visible and tangible for viewers. Number 10. The ballroom scene engineering. The Ascot racing sequence stands as one of the most visually striking moments in musical film history. Yet its power comes not from elaborate choreography or explosive energy. Instead, the scene relies on precision, restraint, and carefully orchestrated stillness. Movement is minimal, but every gesture carries tremendous weight and meaning. Director George Cukor understood that silence and rhythm could be more impactful than spectacle. The aristocratic guests move in coordinated patterns, their expressions frozen in practiced indifference. The visual uniformity creates an almost surreal atmosphere that highlights the rigid social codes Eliza must navigate to gain acceptance. It feels like a carefully staged performance within a performance. Despite its apparent simplicity, the sequence required complex coordination and meticulous timing from everyone on set. Every extra had to hit precise marks while maintaining the illusion of effortless elegance. The restraint became the scene's greatest visual power, creating tension through what was held back rather than what was shown. It remains a masterclass in controlled cinematic staging that filmmakers still study today. Number 11. Emotional distance on set. Chemistry between leading actors can make or break a film. In the case of this production, the relationship between Audrey Hepburn and Rex Harrison remained strictly professional throughout filming. There was no natural warmth or easy camaraderie between them when cameras stopped rolling. They respected each other as professionals, but never developed a genuine personal connection. This emotional distance was apparent to those working on set. The two stars rarely socialized between takes and kept their interactions focused on the work at hand. Some crew members noticed a coolness that extended beyond mere professionalism. Whether due to personality differences or the pressures of production, a genuine bond never formed between the film's two most important performers. Interestingly, this lack of off-screen chemistry subtly influenced their on-screen dynamic in unexpected ways. The formal distance between Hepburn and Harrison translated into performances that felt appropriately restrained and complex. Their characters were never meant to share easy romantic warmth, and the real-life tension added an authenticity that served the story well. What might have been a limitation became an unintentional asset that deepened the film's emotional texture. Number 12. Harrison's difficult reputation. Stories about difficult actors are common in Hollywood, and Rex Harrison certainly earned his share of such tales. His reputation on set stemmed primarily from personality traits rather than technical shortcomings. He was known for possessing supreme confidence, a considerable ego, and a commanding presence that could intimidate those around him. He expected things done his way. Unlike some actors whose difficult behavior results from endless retakes or forgotten lines, Harrison was remarkably efficient in his craft. He arrived prepared and delivered his performances with precision and control. The challenges he presented were interpersonal rather than professional. He could be demanding, particular, and uncompromising in his expectations of those working alongside him on the production. The tension Harrison created came from his need for control over his environment and his work. Cast and crew learned to navigate his personality carefully, understanding that keeping him comfortable was essential for smooth production days. Despite the difficulties, his talent was undeniable, and his portrayal of Higgins became definitive. The price of working with a perfectionist was worth paying for the performance he ultimately delivered to audiences worldwide. Number 13. A Broadway adaptation war. Adapting a beloved stage production for cinema always invites scrutiny. Theater purists watched the development of this film with concern, worried that Hollywood would strip away what made the original Broadway production so special. Changes made for the screen sparked criticism before audiences even had a chance to see the finished product. The adaptation faced skepticism from its earliest announcements. Many devoted fans of the stage version feared that commercial pressures would dilute the musical's spirit and intelligence. The casting of Audrey Hepburn over Julie Andrews intensified these concerns considerably. Critics argued that prioritizing star power over theatrical authenticity signaled a fundamental misunderstanding of what made the story work. The production team found themselves defending creative choices at every turn throughout development. The film essentially had to fight for cultural legitimacy before it ever reached theaters. Proving that a Hollywood adaptation could honor its source material while creating something cinematically unique became an unspoken mission for everyone involved. The pressure to satisfy both purists and general audiences shaped countless decisions during production. Success would require threading a needle that many believed impossible to navigate. Number 14. A cultural reset for musicals. The impact of this film extended far beyond its own success at the box office. It fundamentally redefined what a prestige musical could look like in Hollywood. The combination of lavish production values, serious dramatic performances, and enormous financial investment created a new template that studios would chase for years afterward. The industry took notice immediately. Following the movie's triumph, studios increasingly shifted toward large-scale, expensive musical productions. Executives believed that only massive investments could yield comparable returns and prestige. This philosophy influenced everything from casting decisions to set design across the industry. The era of modest, intimate musicals began fading rapidly as bigger became synonymous with better in the minds of studio leadership. The economic consequences for the genre proved lasting and significant. Smaller productions struggled to find backing as resources flowed toward potential blockbusters instead. The middle ground between intimate character pieces and spectacular epics virtually disappeared. While the film's success was celebrated, it inadvertently helped create conditions that would eventually contribute to the classic musical's decline in subsequent decades. Number 15. Filming in extreme conditions. The elegance visible on screen masked grueling physical realities endured by cast and crew throughout production. Heavy period costumes weighed down performers, restricting movement and trapping body heat under intense studio lighting. What appeared effortless and graceful required tremendous physical stamina to achieve. The glamour came at a considerable personal cost. Long production days stretched endurance to its limits for everyone involved. Elaborate scenes required multiple takes under hot lights while wearing restrictive clothing and maintaining perfect composure. Audrey Hepburn, in particular, faced exhausting demands as the production's center. Her dedication to the role meant pushing through discomfort that would have broken less committed performers. The visual elegance audiences enjoyed hid real physical strain that accumulated over months of filming. Crew members worked extended hours building and maintaining the elaborate sets and costumes. The pursuit of perfection left little room for complaints or shortcuts. Every beautiful frame represented countless hours of uncomfortable labor, transforming physical endurance into cinematic art that would be appreciated for generations to come. Number 16. The Oscar campaign machine. Award season success rarely happens by accident in Hollywood. Warner Brothers understood this reality and launched one of the most aggressive Oscar campaigns the industry had seen up to that point. The studio invested heavily in promoting the film not just as entertainment, but as a cultural achievement worthy of recognition. Every aspect of the campaign was calculated for maximum impact and designed to leave a lasting impression on Academy voters. Prestige branding became as important as the movie itself during this period. The studio positioned the production as the pinnacle of cinematic artistry, emphasizing its lavish production values and distinguished performances. Advertisements, screenings, and promotional events were orchestrated to reinforce this message consistently. Academy voters were courted with a sophistication that matched the film's elegant image. Nothing was left to chance in this carefully coordinated effort. Public perception was carefully shaped through strategic promotion and media placement at every opportunity available. The campaign helped pioneer tactics that would become standard practice in modern Oscar races. Studios learned that winning awards required more than making excellent films. It demanded marketing savvy, political maneuvering, and substantial financial investment in the campaign itself. The movie's eventual Academy Award triumphs validated this approach and changed how Hollywood pursued recognition forever. The film would go on to win 8 Oscars, including Best Picture and Best Actor for Rex Harrison. Number 17. Prestige casting was studio strategy. The casting process for this production involved calculations that extended far beyond mere acting ability. Studio executives approached each role as an opportunity to reinforce the film's status as a prestige event. Actors were selected not only for their talent, but for what their names and reputations communicated to potential audiences. Star power functioned as branding strategy in ways both obvious and subtle. The movie was designed from its inception to feel elite and culturally significant in every possible way. Having Audrey Hepburn's name attached immediately elevated the project's perceived importance in the eyes of the public. Supporting roles were filled with distinguished performers whose presence added gravitas and credibility to the production. Wilfred Hyde-White as Colonel Pickering and Gladys Cooper as Mrs. Higgins brought theatrical pedigree that reinforced the film's connection to legitimate stage traditions. Every casting announcement was meant to signal that this would be something special and worthy of serious attention. This approach transformed casting into a form of marketing communication that spoke volumes before filming even began. The assembled ensemble told audiences what kind of experience to expect before they saw a single frame of footage. Prestige itself became part of the narrative the studio sold to the public through every promotional channel. The strategy worked brilliantly, generating anticipation and positioning the film as must-see cinema long before its release date arrived. It demonstrated that who appeared in a film could be as important as what happened in it. Number 18. The ending was softened for cinema. Stage productions often challenge audiences in ways that Hollywood prefers to avoid. The original Broadway ending of My Fair Lady left Eliza's fate more ambiguous, suggesting independence rather than romantic reconciliation with her demanding teacher. When adapting the story for film, the studio pushed for changes that would satisfy mainstream audience expectations. Comfort replaced complexity in the final moments of the narrative. The film's conclusion was reshaped to feel more emotionally satisfying and traditionally romantic than what theater audiences had experienced on Broadway. Eliza's return to Higgins was framed as heartwarming, rather than troubling or ambiguous. Her hard-won independence seemed to dissolve in favor of reconciliation with the man who had controlled and transformed her throughout the story. The choice prioritized audience comfort over thematic consistency, giving viewers the happy ending they expected from a big-budget Hollywood musical. This alteration fundamentally changed the story's moral meaning for mass audiences who would never see the stage version or read George Bernard Shaw's original play Pygmalion. What had been a nuanced exploration of power and identity became a more conventional love story in its final moments. Critics have debated this decision for decades, questioning whether the softer ending undermines Eliza's journey towards self-determination. The change reveals how studio pressures could reshape artistic vision to meet commercial expectations and perceived audience desires. Shaw himself had fought against romantic interpretations of his work, believing they missed the point entirely. Number 19. The illusion of romance. What the film presents as romance reveals something more complicated upon closer examination by modern viewers. The relationship between Eliza and Higgins contains undeniable elements of emotional control and power imbalance throughout. He treats her as an experiment, a project to be completed rather than a person to be loved and respected. She transforms herself according to his demands and standards rather than her own authentic desires or goals. Contemporary audiences often interpret this dynamic very differently than viewers did in 1964 when the film premiered. Modern perspectives on relationships and consent have made the power imbalances more visible and troubling to watch. What once seemed charming or sophisticated now raises questions about manipulation and emotional dependency. The love story has evolved in meaning as cultural attitudes have shifted dramatically over the past 6 decades. Younger viewers especially tend to question what earlier generations accepted without hesitation. This reinterpretation does not diminish the film's artistry, but adds layers of complexity to its legacy and ongoing cultural relevance. Watching today, viewers can appreciate the performances while recognizing problematic elements that earlier generations overlooked or accepted without question. The movie becomes a fascinating artifact of its era's attitudes toward gender, romance, and acceptable relationship dynamics. Its enduring relevance comes partly from how it invites ongoing re-examination and debate about relationships, power, and transformation. Each generation finds new meaning in the story, discovering aspects that previous audiences could not or would not see. Number 20. Class commentary hidden in song. Beneath the beautiful melodies lies sharp social criticism that rewards attentive listeners willing to look beyond the surface. The lyrics throughout the film subtly critique social hierarchy, class mobility, and the arbitrary nature of status distinctions in British society. Language itself becomes portrayed as a tool of power, determining who belongs in polite society and who remains excluded from its privileges. The songs carry meaning beyond their surface entertainment value, functioning as social commentary disguised as entertainment. The story fundamentally questions whether identity is fixed or performed for social acceptance and advancement. Eliza does not change who she truly is inside through her transformation. She learns to perform a version of herself that satisfies upper-class expectations and prejudices about proper behavior. The transformation is external, a matter of accent and manners rather than genuine personal growth or intellectual development. This distinction carries profound implications about class and authenticity that resonate strongly with audiences across different eras and social contexts. These deeper themes give the film lasting intellectual substance beneath its glamorous surface presentation and spectacular production values. Social psychology runs through every musical number, examining how people construct and police boundaries between classes. The critique remains remarkably relevant in modern discussions about privilege, opportunity, and social mobility in stratified societies. What appears to be a lighthearted musical romance actually contains challenging ideas about power, identity, and the performance of respectability. Numbers like "Why can't the English?" and "Wouldn't it be lovely?" expose class prejudices, while entertaining audiences who might not consciously register their deeper messages. Number 21. Eliza's silence was narrative power. Words are not always the most powerful tools in storytelling. Throughout the film, silence becomes a deliberate narrative technique that communicates Eliza's emotional journey more effectively than dialogue ever could. Director George Cukor understood that what remains unspoken can carry tremendous weight when captured by a skilled performer. Audrey Hepburn's ability to convey complex emotions without words became one of the production's greatest assets. Eliza's transformation is shown as much through behavior and physical presence as through her changing speech patterns. Key scenes rely on body language, facial expressions, and subtle shifts in posture to reveal her internal growth. The camera lingers on Hepburn's face during pivotal moments, allowing audiences to read emotions that no script could adequately describe. Her performance transcends the written word, communicating directly with viewers through visual language alone. This approach trusted audiences to understand character development without constant verbal explanation or exposition. Eliza's growth is revealed rather than announced, shown rather than told through heavy-handed dialogue. The restraint required both directorial confidence and an actress capable of carrying scenes through presence alone. Hepburn delivered exactly what was needed, making silence speak louder than any monologue could. These quiet moments remain among the most memorable in the entire film, demonstrating that great cinema often communicates most powerfully in the spaces between words. Number 22. Studio control over star images. The golden age of Hollywood operated on carefully constructed illusions that extended far beyond what appeared on screen. Audrey Hepburn's public image was meticulously managed by studio publicity departments that controlled nearly every aspect of how she was presented to the world. Her elegance, grace, and sophistication were genuine qualities, but they were also amplified and packaged for maximum public appeal. The woman audiences thought they knew was partly a creation of marketing machinery. Marketing departments shaped how audiences perceived Hepburn's identity throughout her career, and especially during this production. Every interview, photograph, and public appearance was orchestrated to reinforce her image as Hollywood royalty. Authenticity became secondary to maintaining the carefully crafted persona that made her so valuable to the studio. The voice dubbing controversy was kept quiet precisely because it threatened this constructed image of effortless perfection that the studio had worked so hard to establish. The studio system's control over star personas represented both protection and imprisonment for the actors involved. Stars enjoyed tremendous privilege and fame, but at the cost of genuine personal expression and transparency with their audiences. Hepburn navigated this system with grace, but the constraints were ever present throughout her career. The film stands as both a showcase of her remarkable talents and an artifact of an era when studios owned their stars' images completely. Understanding this context adds complexity to appreciating her performance and the machinery that surrounded it. Number 23. A technological musical. Behind the elegant performances and lavish sets was cutting-edge audio technology that pushed the boundaries of what was possible in film production. Advanced sound recording methods were employed throughout filming, requiring precision and coordination that challenged everyone involved. The technical demands of capturing a musical of this scale required innovation and expertise that few productions had attempted before. Engineering excellence became as important as artistic vision. Lip-sync precision became absolutely critical given the decision to dub Audrey Hepburn's singing voice with Marni Nixon's vocals. Every movement of Hepburn's lips had to match perfectly with recordings made separately, requiring meticulous attention to timing and coordination. This technical challenge influenced how scenes were shot and edited, with audio engineering concerns shaping performance choices in ways audiences never realized. The seamless result masked countless hours of painstaking technical work. The film was genuinely ahead of its time in its approach to sound design and recording methodology. Techniques developed during production would influence musical filmmaking for years afterward. Rex Harrison's talk-singing style presented unique challenges that sound engineers had to solve creatively during recording sessions. The marriage of technical innovation and artistic performance created a template that future productions would study and emulate. What audiences experienced as effortless entertainment represented breakthroughs in how musicals could be captured and presented on film, advancing the entire craft of motion picture sound production. Number 24. the musical that ended an era. Great achievements often mark both culmination and conclusion simultaneously. This film represented the absolute peak of what classical Hollywood musicals could achieve in terms of scale, elegance, and prestige. Every element came together to create what many consider the definitive example of the genre at its most ambitious and refined. Yet within this triumph were the seeds of an ending that few anticipated at the time of the film's celebrated release. Soon after the movie's success, the Hollywood musical began a decline from which it would never fully recover in its classical form. Audience taste shifted toward grittier, more realistic storytelling that made lavish musical numbers feel increasingly old-fashioned and out of touch. The counterculture movement of the late 1960s rejected the polished artifice that defined productions like this one. Younger viewers wanted authenticity, not elegance, and the studio system that produced such spectacles was itself crumbling under economic and cultural pressures. The film inadvertently closed a golden chapter of cinema history, even as it exemplified everything that made that era remarkable and beloved. Future musicals would struggle to recapture its magic or justify its enormous budgets in a changing marketplace. The genre would eventually reinvent itself in different forms, but the classical Hollywood musical as audiences knew it essentially ended with this pinnacle achievement. Watching today, viewers experience not just a great film but a farewell to an entire way of making movies that would never return in quite the same magnificent form. Number 25. Legacy bigger than the film. Some stories outgrow their original medium to become part of cultural consciousness itself. My Fair Lady transcended its status as a successful film to become genuine cultural mythology that persists across generations. The transformation narrative, the iconic songs, and the unforgettable characters entered the collective imagination in ways that extend far beyond those who have actually seen the movie. References appear throughout popular culture, often recognized by people who have never watched a single scene. The influence spread across stage revivals, television adaptations, and countless works inspired by its central themes of identity and transformation. The Pygmalion story it adapted has been reimagined in romantic comedies, dramatic films, and television series too numerous to count. Fashion designers continue drawing inspiration from Cecil Beaton's legendary costumes decades after their creation. The songs remain standards performed and recorded by artists across every musical genre imaginable. Themes of identity, class, and personal transformation ensure the story remains perpetually relevant to new audiences discovering it for the first time. Every generation finds something meaningful in Eliza's journey from poverty to apparent refinement and self-discovery. My Fair Lady became bigger than the movie itself, evolving into a touchstone for discussions about authenticity, social mobility, and the performance of identity. Its legacy proves that truly great cinema can escape the boundaries of its medium to become permanent fixtures in how we understand ourselves and our society. The film endures not as a museum piece, but as a living story that continues speaking to audiences more than 6 decades after its premiere. My Fair Lady remains one of cinema's most elegant achievements, but its true story extends far beyond what audiences see on screen. Behind the glamour was a production shaped by power struggles, casting controversies, and personal sacrifices that never made the final cut. From Audrey Hepburn's heartbreak over her replaced voice to the technological innovations that made the music possible, the film was built on hidden complexities that only deepen its legacy. The record-breaking budget, the elaborate sets that functioned like cities, and the carefully engineered Oscar campaign all contributed to creating a landmark that would define Hollywood musicals for generations. The movie stands as both a masterpiece and a revealing portrait of Hollywood's golden age machinery at its most ambitious. It redefined what prestige musicals could achieve while inadvertently marking the end of an era that would never return in quite the same form. Its themes of transformation, class, and identity continue resonating with audiences who discover it today, proving that great storytelling transcends any single generation. If you enjoyed uncovering these secrets, like and subscribe for more classic film stories. Which My Fair Lady revelation surprised you the most? Let us know in the comments.